It's great. No, thank you for having me. Uh, Obviously, you've done homework on me, so I'll have to make sure I try to live up to all the nice words you said about me. So thank you with that. Uh, Again, George Smith. I'm one of the senior systems engineers at Gigamon, as was said. And today, I looked at basically what we're going to do on application intelligence, but we're going to take a little bit more of a different little swing at it today as well. Uh, so let's talk about what application intelligence is. Everybody talks about it, and I guess we also might confuse application intelligence with AI. But what application intelligence is really about is in our world is the ability at all levels to be able to get the information from where it is to where it needs to be. Now I know it sounds kind of trite, and everybody does that, but at Gigamon, we take a really, really different look at this. So what I'm going to do is I actually drew up a pic that I'm going to share with everybody so we can have a way to, as a reference on it. And where we're going to be taking this is not just on the application intelligence world, and application intelligence is cool, but cool isn't great unless it's got value to you. So we will be taking this is from application intelligence into where we also see this blending into the security framework, typically within a zero trust environment, because we don't want to trust anybody in the inside as well as the outside today. So if we look, and let me do a screen share here, and then we go in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus right in on this as the framework for what we're talking about today. Now, application intelligence is again one of those key phrases, but uh, application intelligence cannot be used, invoked, or be of any value unless you get the information from where it is to where it has to be in the application intelligence world. The challenges we run into, and everybody invokes the COVID-19 model of remote working. That's very true. But the challenges we run into in App Intel is where do you pick up that information and get it to the tools where required? Now, there's very few companies outside the world, maybe Jeff Bezos, because he just sold $3 billion worth of stock, can afford it. But there's very few companies that can afford to do complete full instrumentation across their entire environment. So we have to be strategic in that. So the instrumentation to get the information from where it is to where it needs to be takes in three levels, as you see here. And I drew this up also, this analogy up when working with a number of customers. And the reason is because I was constantly asked, well, what do we use to get that information to where it is to where it's got to be? So it comes in three levels for us. As you see here, and I'm going to stare at my screen over here, and I probably should move it to the other screen. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I have a glass eye on this side, so I have to swing my head a little more that way. All right, so let's talk about information. Information comes in just a huge number of forms, but uh, the initial gathering of that information is generally in a raw form of some sort. Either we pull it off a network switch, we throw it in a tap in the cloud, or we keep it on-prem and we basically splice into the wiring between closet servers and firewalls, for example, the Ethernet cabling. So because of that, if you look at what we have down here on the left-hand side, we have a dump truck, a huge, huge industrial dump truck of ore. Now, the goal is to get to the gold of that information that you need. And the gold in our world are those applications. And, but we're not really specifically interested so much in that part of the applications, but what we're really interested in, how they're working in our environment. Are they doing the things they should be? Are the SLAs there? Is the security there? Do we have a crack that somebody maybe found in that security and they're leveraging it, and so we have a bad actor potentially? So what you do is you have literally tons and tons and tons of data that are streamed in the raw form. So, but once you get it in that raw form, what you have to now do is get it into a level where you can now sift it down to begin to get to the information that you want to see. Now, also remembering that perfection is the enemy of good enough. And the problem is, as you get closer to perfection, you get closer to higher cost too. So what you do for that next level is you take all that raw information and you centralize it in a point. It's we call it naturally an aggregation. By the way, if some of you already realize this, maybe a little bit of take a little bit of a mental field trip, but I want to build on this to the final parts of this. So basically, what happens now is once you get to that aggregation level, you've entered the first ability to be able to filter that information down into a reasonable form that the tool can handle. Now we see all over that tools, especially in the application intelligence world, these tools, they can handle a lot of information. That's true. But as we start to peel the layers off the onion, you may have a tool that has 40 gig, 100 gig, maybe even 400 gig coming up where they can ingest that information. But the issue is not the amount of information that can be ingested at the speed level. The real issue comes into two factors. The first one is the amount of information going in. Can the system or tools that you're doing process that information? It is not untypical, atypical, or some sort of anti-typical to find that you have a tool that has 40 gig inputs that you can just Niagara Falls that information into. But when it starts to get into the that tool and its ability to process, now you're talking maybe a lower rate to make that happen. So now what you do is you have to get into that filtering world. And aggregators, what they do is they begin the first layer of that screening. They begin, to take the shovel full of dirt that you put in and filter out the rocks, maybe filter out the pebbles, and get you down to some finer stuff. The whole goal is to get to the information that you want to see. Now, at the aggregation level, that may be okay. You may not be overrunning the tools. But if you get to the point where you're overrunning the tools, and this is very prevalent in the security world, if you're overrunning the security tools, now what you have to do is start to introduce some of those higher brain functions. We go past the aggregation, which is basically heartbeat and respiration. But now what you're doing is you're getting into the functions of the higher brain functions, where now you want to start selectively picking out applications. And why do we do that? It's because we don't need to see everything in the world. And if we try to capture everything in the world, it's not going to happen, because you're going to start dropping data, and the fidelity of that data goes down in the security and also the applications world. Just ask the vendors. Anybody who's gotten a quote for application performance management, you understand what I'm talking about. Anybody who's gotten a quote for security inline tools, you know what I'm talking about at that point. So what happens at those higher level app level functions? Understanding the ratios here are not atypical. They're not really any different than what you do when you're mining for gold. For every ton of ore that you're going to pull out for that gold, you're going to get 0.3 ounces of gold per ton. That's an amazing thing. And when we start to look at it, as you start to look at the applications that you want, you're basically looking to say, yeah, which ones am I going to look at? I really, at this point, I don't care if people are looking at LinkedIn. What I really care about are all my security apps, are all my production and my business apps falling in line. And that's where you start to have to introduce other things that bring a wider swath of information into you. So now, perhaps, you've got a consumption model for a SEM product. And that consumption model says the more information you pull in, the more, basically you're going to be charged to make that happen. So you do get to a wall where you say, well, I'm a large company. I got $300,000 to work with on my SIM products and my consumption models. I can't cover what I need to cover in my network. So now you make the unenviable choices of having to throw a dart sometimes to figure out where you can cover in your network on your SIM products. So as you start to introduce these higher level functions, what you start to introduce is a couple of options. The first options are in the consumption and the performance model. Maybe you're starting to pull things that like SSL decryption. You're pulling those out of those tools. And why? Because every function has a cost, and the cost is usually in memory and CPU, or the amount of bandwidth that a tool can take. So basically, as you get into those higher level functions, as we see here, and getting to that gold level, you might shut off. You might say, well, I want to SSL decrypt ahead of my tool. And what that provides me now is the ability to take more security information in, to take more applications information in a consumption model as well. If you start to pull things like SSL out, and you look at the consumption models of the tools that you're using, if they're application performance management, for example, what you now can do also is you can slice the information down that goes into them. basically, in the world of networking, you have a huge packet. So, but what happens when you have that huge packet? You don't look at all the information in 9,000 bytes. That's the techno dweeby as I'll get today, but the 9,000 bytes. You're not going to need all that information. But what if you only need 128 bytes? What if you only need 512 bytes? You look at average frame sizes and whatnot, you can usually get under 500 bytes, under 400 bytes, in some cases 256 bytes, and you can get the information you need. What does that do to your consumption model? Since you're not consuming as much data, you're not shoving that into those tools, you have two things that you can do now. At this point, you can either go and you can say, all right, I can cover more, or I can take that money I have and invest it in additional visibility to make that happen as well. So these are the places that you want to get to with application intelligence. With our side of application intelligence, naturally, we're going to tell you we do a great job of it. With our side of the application intelligence, what we do is we provide that click and search and click. We will give you a list of the applications. We will give you a list of the ones that are the heavy hitters. We will look at them. We will look at the application filtering capabilities that you need. And it should be no more difficult, and this is the way we make that, than you being able to click, select your app, and then go on with life and say, yeah, these are the things I want to look at, and these are going to pull back my consumption models. These are going to pull back the amount of information that I can send into a sensor, for example. If you have a sensor that's looking at application or IoT, you're going to start pulling that information back. Now, a couple of things to be aware of, though. Again, as you go up in that level, your cost will naturally go up. But then you have to look at that cost benefit side of it. Now, we have taken great pains in Gigamon to introduce, we call them ROIs, calculators. Quite frankly, I can't stand the term ROI calculator, because the negative connotation is that a manufacturer is always going to leverage what what they do well to make an ROI number look good. Not the case here. We really call it a traffic engineering calculator, or ValCalc. And the reason we call it that is because we're not going to introduce a Gigamon influence on that calculation for you. So if you get to the local teams and Atlantic Data comes up and they involve us, what we always look to do is to see if there's some sort of engineering we could look at to maybe reduce what goes on in the world. So, and you play with the slider bars. And when you play with the slider bars, it's not that you're going to see, like from our side of it, you're not going to see the application. We're not going to say, hey, you know what, if you put this in, you will get this. What we're going to really look at is how do we increase the efficiency of the existing tools you use. And again, these are of a flavor on our website that you can actually play with these numbers, save it, look at the report, and decide, basically, is this is it a sane report? And believe me, they are at that point. But you will at no time in the evaluation of how your tools are performing see us say, hey, by the way, if you put in our TAP, our AGS, and our application performance intelligence, that you're going to do a lot better. What we'll tell you is how efficiently those tools are working and ways to increase that efficiency. So on another side of that, though, we're not just we just don't wake up and start steering information into to those tools that you're looking at. Although we do a lot of that, and we are very good at managing the information that goes in, especially in the environment where if you have some tools that are weaker in processing and stronger in others, and it's the same class of tool doing the same functions, we can actually do things that share around that. But we also have another tool that we use, and what we feed this into, which I am very excited about because really part of the world that I enjoy living in. There we go. So we do feed this into as part of the solutions that you have available to you is not just the application performance side of it, not just the steering of it, not just the figuring out how to get to that goal, but what you do have available as well is some bolt-ons that will let you look at the security aspects as well. And where these are important is that you want to be able to steer the information as well into the security platforms that are going to, basically, you can take advantage of. And part of those security platforms that we have, what you're looking here is our threat insight, is the ability not only to find out if applications are going good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, but also to find out in the interactions of those applications, the interactions of those users, if you have bad actors that are coming in as well. Because when we have dwell times, measured in days, people are reconning that network. They're going in, and in a zero trust environment, especially where we want to make sure that since we no longer can trust people inside as well as outside, that we provide that picture. So what we've taken the pains to do, frankly, is to put this in a utilitarian form that can either stand alone or can be combined with our other products that will let you steer that information that you want to see into these sensor technologies. And again, being consumption based, we taken great care to figure out how we can cull that information to get it into the sensor technology. So basically, you aren't doing like we used to do a voice over IP, going out there and saying, well, we're going to go for your busiest call volume. We're no longer relegated to that. So basically, what you see is the ability now to have that utilitarian look in the world that says, yeah, I've got some bad things going on right now, but when I have those bad things, I want to be able to incident respond. I want to be able to click into those bad things, and I want to be able to find out very, very quickly what's going on in my world. Now, the reason that you're going to hear a lot of why do you do this very, very quickly, because you naturally you want to take care of the issues that are happening. But there's another reason to do things very, very quickly, is that resources and brain power is not infinite in an organization. And when every day we're fighting bad actors, we look at that ability and we say we need the ability, or our customers need the ability to go in and be able to look at this information, be able to make determinations as to whether this is good, bad, or indifferent, and then go on to the next thing, and be able to put the remediation steps in process to make that happen as well. So by able to look and steer information to these platforms, if you want to be surgical about it, or your ability basically to carpet bomb and look at all the information, what you're going to do is you're going to realize that you can go through these processes more quickly. That's our goal, to go through them more quickly so that you can move on, those valuable resources can move on to other things. So if you start to look, and I'm not going to go too deep dive into this, I encourage you again, get with our partner, make sure that they get you with our resources where warranted. But what you have that ability now to do through application intelligence and the interactions that happen in the day is not only to go through the dashboard, but is to get triaged very, very quickly. And by the way, I'm going to tell you something that's going to shock you here. We don't hide our triage rules. We make those available to you as well. And between yourself and a resource that comes with the product is basically our incident responder class individual that you have earned the right to work with as part of our friend in the factory strategy. You now can see the triage rules we use. Why? Because if you have to wait every day for a triage update, especially when the poo is hitting the oscillating fan, basically that's risk. So, but what we have the ability to do now is to open those up and show them to you and modify them should a badness happen on day 0 plus a minute. And that's the real goal we go with. And as far as also is the investigation of the events that do come through as well. So we go investigate. I'm going to go detections. I'm going to go. Let's go back dash. I'm just going to click around here a little bit, but let's go in and And here's the gold. Here's the gold for yourself. Once you've firmed up your application intelligence strategy, if you decide that you want to layer on the level of security with that, and you want that friend in the factory to be able to work with you, we will also give you the exploitation scorecard, really. So you may have a high severity, but you may have a low confidence level. And those two things together may put those on the back burner. Again, in the utilitarian way, in the zero trust environment of making sure the resources are working for you. If you see severity, if you do see severity high and you do see confidence moderate or high, these are things that, again, are flags that you and your security individuals, maybe even involving, again, your friend in the factory, to take a look at. But in the lieu of that, and maybe you want to look and you want to start to handle these and triage them on your own, we do give you the description of what's going on, so you're not redditing this thing. You're not going. You're not trying to find out and doing Wikipedia searches where somebody has messed with Wikipedia to lead you down a bad road. But what we do is we give you the description and we give you the next steps that we would recommend that you follow to make those things work. So in the light of that, our combination of being able to find that information wherever it is, bring that up and aggregate that into one central spot, and also introduce those higher level brain functions that will also let you filter those applications, will also let you look at the information going back and forth, be what I like to call tactical, where you may have to, strategically you set everything up, but there's an event, tactically allow you to very quickly modify the environment to look at other applications that may be either causing you problems or you've implemented, or because you want to keep the risk low, you are sandboxing. Plus, layering on that level of security that you can gain to find out not just the bad actors, but to find out the bad applications and the things that are going wrong in your environment, and working with your friends in the factory, that's our friends in the factory that we have standing by to help you, is where we look at the total solution at Gigamon to provide that to you as well. And your account teams, especially Atlantic Data, and in combination with Gigamon, we're there to take you on that journey so that you do not have to do it alone. There is no do it alone here. So we will provide that expertise, that consulting, and the design that you will see. And if anything else, what I encourage you to do is get with the teams and just take a quick look. It may not be something today, but it may be something in the future you think about. We are in it for the long haul. And when it comes to application intelligence, it's only going to get better with us. We have a number of things on the plan that are going to even cement that up further.